You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Mark Reed and Ted Durden, only on LA Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of The Voice of Reason. My name is Ted Durden, a Southern Democrat.
And I'm Mark Reed, a West Coast Republican.
And together, we are The Voice of Reason. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this is a politically motivated podcast where civil discourse is the order of the day, where Mark and I believe there are more things that unite us than there are things that divide us. And having said that, as I always do, I toss the ball to my co-host, Mark Reed.
You know, we've done so many different subjects on shows. I want to recap on one. And You're probably going to get a kick out of this one because it's going to come out of left field.
Okay.
What happened to Jeffrey Epstein, the case?
It died and went away. Nothing.
Died and went away.
No pun intended. No pun intended. But it died and went away.
Didn't I call it? I said with his death, this investigation, all of the tapes from his island,
right?
All of the contacts that he had,
right?
All of the accusations that are out there was going to get buried.
Right, and that's exactly what happened.
It's getting buried, in my opinion. It's getting buried because the tentacles of that octopus went so far and wide to existing elected officials that they needed to bury it. Whether he was murdered or he committed suicide doesn't even matter.
Right.
He was taken out of the picture, and by being taken out of the picture, the criminal investigation, all of it just disappeared.
It just stopped.
Yeah.
It just stopped. And you were right. And I'm not surprised. The only thing that was left over that you heard any discussion about were the claims against his estate by his victims. And you haven't even heard anything about that.
No, exactly not. I mean, you're never going to hear anything again about this case.
Probably not.
And it goes into the same thing with Harvey Weinstein.
And
the producer,
right?
The same thing. What about these cases? You know, you look at the college graduation scandals that are going on.
Right there.
Felicity Huffman she's all upset because now they're adding more charges on her. She should have taken her plea. She should have taken the plea deal.
She should have
just closed the case and got out of it.
Yeah.
You know, and because she's guilty.
She is.
There's no questions about it. She's guilty.
Right, and why she didn't is I don't understand it. To me, it's almost like what you and I have talked about before. It's like white privilege. It's like she's thumbing her nose because her and her husband have all this money, and they feel that they can escape justice and do whatever they want to and not suffer any consequences. And that's not going to happen here. So for me, she's getting her comeuppance. She really is.
I wouldn't call it white privilege.
No?
You know, being kind of a white dude.
Like a little bit.
A little bit of a white dude with a brown tint. You know, I've never thought I've had white privilege, and I've never understood that, the white privilege, because I've had to work for everything I have, and I've had to work hard. I've had to live by the rules, and even people look at me and say, "Oh, you're a handsome-looking guy. Doors must open for you." No, they don't. It's the opposite. But the truth of it is that it is elitism. When people have a tremendous amount of money, it goes to their head, and the two-tiered justice system works in their benefit. It's money. It's not really white.
Well, I'm gonna let you finish that.
Finish that thought process.
Go ahead.
You want me to hang myself?
Yeah. Go right on ahead. Go ahead. Noose is tight, and go ahead.
Well, it's kind of like, what did they say about O.J. Simpson? Right? That it was wealth. It was wealth. The average black guy that was charged with the same crime would have been up the creek right away. But because O.J. Simpson had money, he was able to buy the right defense attorneys, buy buy it all off, and he was able to stay out of prison until he screwed up again in Las Vegas.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there was that.
But I always believe it is about money. It's about privilege. It's about monetary privilege and what you can get away with versus what you can't get away with if you're broke.
Well, see, and here's the reason why I disagree with you.
Okay.
And as far as the term white privilege is concerned, white privilege to me is not about just having money. There are certain things that as a people, that whites enjoy automatically, that minorities, and I'm going to speak for myself and my people, that blacks don't. We can walk into a store, okay? Let's give the most common example. You can have a black youth walk into a store. He could be wearing a hoodie. He's going to be followed most likely. You can have a white kid walk into a store with a hoodie on, and he won't. There are certain prejudices that come automatically with.
I agree to that.
Well, see,
but
how
how about a white guy?
Mhm.
Okay, it looks a little scraggly. He's got tattoos on him and everything else, and he walks in with a hoodie. You think he's not going to be followed by
He may and he may not. But the reality is, if you have that same scenario with a black man that walks in or a black kid that
They're
walks
gonna
in,
watch him.
right?
They're
But
gonna
what I'm
watch
saying, there's a greater likelihood.
I've had to sat here in different stores that I've worked at when I youth, and what is it called? Product loss, right? It's semi-security watching people.
Right.
I was put on a detail of watching individuals at one of my first jobs. It was just observing customers. I busted a priest.
Was he smuggling a kid?
He was stealing. He was stealing stuff out of Angels Do-It-Yourself Center.
Right.
A priest, mind you.
Right.
Now, granted, you're more suspect when you have a certain appearance,
Sure.
and you're more suspect if you're a person of color. But yet, at the same time, well, I can't even say that because they've been jacked up just for no reason at all, too. They just fit the profile of something, you know.
And that's all I'm saying is
And-
because if you look at statistics, and again,
Because I had long hair. Remember?
I'm sure back in the day.
So I had long hair. Do you know how many people would walk up to me and say, "Hey, man, you know where to get some marijuana?" Cops would pull me over just because I look like a hippie.
Yeah.
But I'm white. But I had long hair.
And
It's automatic. People will profile.
Right.
It's
and
automatic.
Because even myself, I ain't never had long hair like that. Of course, I had the afros. Yeah, no,
Okay.
I had that. Now again, I never thought that I looked like a drug dealer. But you'd be surprised how many people walk up to me and ask me, "Hey, I can score some coke, I can score some herbs, some weeds, and whatever."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What?"
And that's because in that time,
Yeah.
the drug dealers, if they were black drug dealers, they had the fro going on, they had the colorful belt bottoms going on,
all of that
kind
going
crap.
on.
The
Yeah,
hippies of the time, right?
Yeah, and
So-
then like I said, but I think there's still a lot of it that goes on because again, I think there are certain things, a lot of things that whites enjoy just automatically by virtue of the fact that you're white, and I'm going to use that to segue into a national subject.
Uh-oh.
Lynching.
What?
Lynching.
What?
Yeah, lynching.
Yeah, you want to go after
Lynching.
Donald Trump for saying
it's
modern day
not-
lynching.
Well, it's not so much going after him.
See, I'm going to give you a for instance. I have
Oh, give me a second here. Okay. Now, we all know because we remember what he said about Elijah Cummings. Remember what he said about that?
No, he didn't say it about He didn't say it about
What he
Elijah
said about
Cummings.
the city. He said the city
about
of Baltimore. Go back
that
to
it's-
rat-infested places
but
and
so
so
did
forth
Bernie
and so on.
Sanders, and so did quite a few other
Right.
individuals
And-
in the Senate and the House.
And what I
So
said,
it wasn't just Donald Trump
no,
saying it.
but what I said about that particular subject indicated that if it's the truth, it's the truth.
Yes.
Okay, so the only situation, my only position on this is very simple. I know what Lindsey Graham said. Everybody's been lynched, white people have been lynched, so forth and so on. But I think historically, that word has mostly been associated with blacks. But however, here's the interesting thing. Give you another historical fact. The basis of where the term lynching came from Charles Lynch. A lot of people thought it was William Lynch, but it was Charles Lynch from 1780.
Was that because Charles lynched his brother?
No. Basically, it was a method. It was a technique and a method that he used to suppress an uprising amongst loyalists. And so through time, that term lynched came to mean suppression of an uprising or rebellion. Now, once slavery came into effect, then it got distorted. And when you think about lynching, what happens is, in those days, blacks would be hung, burned, and oftentimes dragged behind horse carriages or whatever. So I don't think that word should be used in certain vernaculars, even when they used to say a modern day lynching. But I will say this, and again, being the voice of reason,
Right.
when Donald Trump said that, he wasn't trying to be sarcastic. He wasn't trying to be bombastic. He wasn't trying to be inflammatory. Because if you think about the meaning of the word, and I'm not trying to give him a pass per se, but again, all the furor that's been raised behind the usage of the word, in the context in which he said it, a lynching simply means mob violence where you're being tried unfairly without the benefit of a judge or a jury or anything like that, and that is the sense in which he used it.
Right.
It wasn't.
A hanging is more
right.
of a you go through due process.
It wasn't racial. It wasn't racially motivated or anything like that. At its worst, at his worst, it was insensitive. That's it. That's all.
Well, and I've said this before as well, our president has a bad choice of words, and his style is off on occasions, and he rubs people the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And so when he does this, it's kind of, people react to it, but I don't anymore.
Right.
And because I don't think there was malice behind it. And what it's going to tell you is one of my cousins way back was hung for horse thieving.
And that was common back in those days.
It was common. If you were on a horse and you didn't have a bill of sale for that horse, and it matched up with someone's stolen horse, you were hung right then and there.
Back in those days, for like I said, and cattle rustling?
Cattle rustling, the same thing. You got nailed, and that was the end of that. So when I heard what he said, it's like, okay, here we go again, another bad choice of words. They're going to jump on it.
Right.
And it's no different than when George Bush, Jr. came out and said he wanted, he wanted Osama bin Laden. There's old sign that said "dead or alive."
Right.
Remember they went after him because of his English language and he didn't master the. Our press is so hypersensitive to everything that is coming out of a person's mouth that even if you stayed silent, they would say, "Well, you're a dummy."
Yeah,
it's over hypersensitive to the words now, and I'm not giving him a pass.
Right,
know me,
and I'm not either.
My consultant, got after me that one day that you and I were going at it, and you were defending Trump, and I was going after him, and he's like, "Mark, Ted was defending Trump. You were going after him." I said, "Well, I really don't care for the way he talks.
Right.
It is not the norm for the president of the United States.
It isn't.
To have conversations the way he does.
No.
It is not the norm. It's completely out of the norm."
No.
And so I was commenting on that.
Right.
Now, and this is the same thing I've gotten into a lot of progressives and liberals in the conversation. They'll say, "I hate Donald Trump." And I just think, okay, what do you hate about him? "Oh, he's a racist. He's a sexist. He's a misogynist. He's a this and he's a that." I said, okay, I understand you don't like his personality. What do you dislike about his policies?
Yeah, talk about that.
Silence. There's dead silence.
Yeah,
okay?
Talk about that.
I agree with them. His personality, if you know any brash New Yorker from Manhattan, okay, and I've got quite a few friends from the East Coast.
Right.
They're very similar. You know that? And you just deal with it and you get along with it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's how he is.
That's how he is.
That's
and
how
that's
he
how
is.
he deals with business.
You don't have to like it. Because he's a businessman. He's always been rough like that.
Yep.
He's always had a take no prisoners attitude in all of his business dealings. He's always drawn a hard line.
Something that was talked to me, I'll make this point, you can reply to it. But, America has wanted a businessman in the White House for a long time, a real businessman, cold cut. A military special forces guy told me about the decision in Syria, right, the northern Syrians with the Kurdish, right, that America made a business decision which is cold cut. There's no emotional, there's no loyalties, there's no nothing involved. It's a business decision. What are we doing? Should we keep doing it? We've been there 18 years. It's a cold cut business decision on his part. That's the mentality of President Trump, is monetary decision makings, and that's it. This is getting into the 21st century warfare at this point, because he is the first president at this point who has gone after the trade imbalances, has gone after all of the manufacturing, gone after taxes. Everything is business to him, and it's cold cut. It's actually cold cut. And
but
America's better than that.
Yeah, but I just don't think the way he went about the handling of the situation in Syria, I would disagree. I don't think even if it was a business decision, I understand his promise to bring the troops home, but that was a situation that we sought the assistance of the Kurds with. They got no warning, no discussion, no nothing, and we just cut them loose. But we can come back and talk. We can come and talk about it a little bit. We got to pay some bills.
Pay some bills, and we'll see you in a minute or two.
Right. We are brought to you by Paintball USA. For the best paintball experience of your life, call 661-255-5332. Ask for April and mention the Voice of Reason and get a 25% discount off all your regular price packages. If you want a fantastic outing for the family and friends, or if you're a corporation looking for that magic team building exercise, check out Paintball USA. All packages include admission, air gun rental, complete safety equipment, party favors, and 500 paintballs to use accordingly. That's Paintball USA at 661-255-5332. Don't forget to mention the Voice of Reason to get your 25% discount. The Voice of Reason is also brought to you by churchandlaw.com at 818-230-3110. If you have any questions or need legal advice about workers' compensation, employment, and labor law, call churchandlaw.com at 818-230-3110. The Voice of Reason is also brought to you by Honda. Additionally, The Voice of Reason is brought to you by Levin and Nalbandian Trial Lawyers at 213-232-4848. If you have any workers' compensation, employment, and labor law or personal injury legal needs, call Levin and Albandia at 213-232-4848.
Welcome back to the Voice of Reason. We were just talking about the cold-cut decision-makings of President Trump and the way in which America has shifted itself a little bit, getting away from supporting its allies, having that allegiance, that loyalty. And as much as President Trump has asked individuals within his own cabinet, are you going to be loyal? And he's not sharing that same attitude with our allies out there, is what you're kind of bringing across. And I agree, because sometimes the moral decision outweighs the financial decision.
Right.
And this is what John Huffman, I think it's Huffman is his name, the multimillionaire, he was talking about his son ran for, Jack, do you remember the guy? It's Huffman? I think it's Huffman. But I'll be for sure of it. But he was talking about on the show, personal integrity versus business integrity. Is that business in America has lost its way because personal integrity has been replaced with business integrity. Meaning that when a business makes a contract and it goes to fulfill it 3 years later, if they're going to lose money, they say the contract's no longer valid. We're going to renegotiate the contract. In the old days, if they made a deal, that deal stuck. Even if 3 years later, when they went to fulfill the contract, they lost money, they would still fulfill the contract. And his example of that was he had some oil fields. He needed to get some cash. He was strapped for cash. He sold it for the Chevron company. And the Chevron company, they made a deal. It's worth, he sold it to him for like let's say round numbers, $30 million.
Okay.
So, okay, have your lawyers drop the paperwork, and I'll have my lawyers review the paperwork and do the responsible. We'll get this deal solid, right? Well, 2 years later, they came back and they said, okay, John, the oil fields are not worth $30 million anymore. They're worth $60 million. What do you want to do with the extra 30? He said, we shook hands at 30 2 years ago. Write up the contract for $30 million, and I'm honoring that deal. We shook our hands on that deal. He said, that's personal integrity right there.
Right.
Is honoring your word when you make the deal. It doesn't make any difference what the paperwork says.
Right.
This is where, this conflict has come about in Syria, and we've let them down on 3 different occasions. But at the same time, and I'll ask this question, it's a harsh question, but I mean the devil's advocate as well. What was the pretense of us going into Syria, standing beside the Kurds and asking for the Kurds' help? Was it to help them establish their homeland? Was it to help them establish a cutout of a piece of property up in northern Syria for their homes? Was it to only fight ISIS? Was it to stabilize the region and then get out? Did we make any kind of a long-term deal? Because we've spent treasure, both blood and money, in that region for 18 years, stabilizing it.
Right.
Mistakes were made in the Obama administration when they announced the pullout, when the red lines were drawn in the sand with Assad, and they didn't do anything. When ISIS built up its troops, I think it was 30 or 40,000 individuals on the Syrian-Iraqi border before they came in and invaded. Big mistakes were made by the generals, by administrations, no different than this administration is making mistakes as well. What was our original agreements? What were they for?
I can tell you what I think it is. I think it was a trade-off. I think that because of the surge of ISIS in that area, the United States agreed that they would keep a minimum number of troops there and provide the Kurds with military support, because we didn't have that many troops there. But it was sufficient enough. It was sufficient enough, number one, to stabilize the region. Number two, provide homeland for the Kurds. Number three, to help, and for us doing that and providing that 20-mile swath, the Kurds said, okay, in return for you doing that for us, we will help you fight ISIS. And they stood up for us in that sense. They lost over 10,000 lives. 11,000. We didn't lose that many. So they put their blood where their mouth was. They stuck by us. Like I said, and if Trump decided he was going to make a business decision, and there is some controversy even swirling around that.
But ISIS not only was in there killing the Kurds, ISIS was killing everybody in the northern region of Syria and Iraq.
Oh, no, they were. But you have to look at how many ISIS prisoners that they also had control of. And all I'm saying is this. If that's what he decided he was going to do, and he made that decision, I think at a minimum, to do the honorable thing, he should have sat down with the Kurds and told him what his plan was going to be.
I agree.
Yeah,
with that.
and that's what happened. To me, that's the real tragedy. He didn't do that. What happened is I always mispronounce his name. Erdogan. Okay, Erdogan did what he always did to whoever was U.S. president. He would always insist that we get out of Turkey, that we get out of Syria. He would always insist we do that, and it was always rejected. Or he was coddled in some kind of way, and we just kept the peace the way that we had been doing. And again, if Donald Trump changed his mind, all he had to do was call up the Kurds, leave the Kurds, say, "Hey, look, this is what's going to happen. So you need to go ahead and get out of the area, because we're just going to let it go. We're going to let you guys handle this out. You, Turkey, Syria, Russia, Iran, Iraq. You guys are going to have to figure this out." That's what he should have done, and that didn't happen. That's my only issue.
I agree. The conversation should have taken place with the leaders of the areas, and I think Turkey's been a pain in the neck for the region for quite a while. A quiet pain in the neck. It's been a pain over in Lebanon. It's been a pain in Armenia. It's been a pain to Israel because of support of the flotillas going over there, challenging their military blockade. It's been a pain to America because we asked to fly over the northern region to be able, when we were going to invade Iraq with the UN approval, and they said no. We have 50, I believe it's 50 nuclear bombs at that base in Turkey. Right. So we're very susceptible to a big problem over there. And I don't think the Turks really care one way or the other. Are we going to go out an all-out world war over it?
No, I don't think that.
I don't think so. So I think I think Erdogan is a very tough negotiator of I don't care. And he's probably a great example of why certain countries should never have nuclear bombs.
Absolutely.
Because it's kind of like, I got my button, you got your button. You're willing to push it? I am.
He would have no compunction about pushing that button. I don't think so either.
No, I think he would do it. We'd have no problem at all. We'll deal with it later.
He wouldn't care.
The aftermath. So you look at individuals like that in the Middle East, and I think Turkey has been a real pain for quite a while. Even with our guest a couple of weeks ago, he didn't want to really dive into that. Same thing with India. You're not going to dive into it because they have their backroom negotiations going on now, diplomatic negotiations. And they're very tentable in the sense that I think some of these regions over there, they just don't care.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, without the United States, even the small force that they had, and the Kurds being forced to retreat, there's nobody there to keep Turkey in check. They're not. The sanctions that we had lasted for 5 days. The sanctions are gone. Turkey accomplished what they were trying to do,
Right.
and so they gained everything that they wanted, that they've been trying to get for the last 10, 12 years.
Right. There's a small force that's still there because of the passageway that Iran has used to get into Lebanon.
Right. Yeah.
Smuggling arms and so forth, little rockets and stuff going on in there.
RPGs.
So we still patrol that area. And even Iraq has stuck their thumb in our eye because they said, look, the troops that you're pulling out of Syria are not allowed to stay in Iraq. You can transition them out of there and back to America. So that region, and you got to kind of understand it. Do we really want to police the region?
Well, here's the thing. I've never been a believer in the United States being the world's police because, number one, it's cost too many American lives. It's been an incredible financial burden on this country as a whole. But it's important that we still protect our interests, whatever they may be or wherever they may lie.
Well, the Middle East interest, and I got in a conversation with a person about this thing. He says, I said, we are fighting for oil. They said, no, we're not. I said, yes, we are. He goes, no, we're not. We're self-sufficient now. I said, no,
we're not.
I said, no, we're not. We still import some. We are more self-sufficient than we've ever been. However, that's not the oil that we are defending. What we're defending, which the U.S. is vulnerable to, which is our world interest and security interest,
right,
is the world economy.
Yeah.
The world economy circles around that oil flowing out of there to the rest of the regions of the world for their economies. If their economies fail, we're going to take a severe hit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
that's our interest. That's our strategic interest. So we are fighting for oil. That's why we're the biggest police force in the Strait of Hormuz.
Right.
Okay, we're the biggest ones protecting the oil.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, in and out of there.
Yeah, we
Nobody
are.
else has
No.
the capacities that we have.
Or the military
So
might, the military
we
power.
may
they
not
just
be
don't.
we may not be fighting for oil for us, but this is why you got to look at President Trump and say, you're finally making people pay their fair share to the UN. You're finally making people pay their fair share to NATO. You're finally making them take their own security and national interest as a priority.
Right. My only concern with him doing that is how bad will it fracture our relationship with our allies, and is it something that will be repairable? So,
Well,
I think the answer to that is something that only time will tell.
You can look at it and say, and then we're going to go to break. And
Okay.
we'll pick it up right after this. I'll make an inflammatory comment.
Go
And
ahead.
that is, you have an abusive relationship, and one finally decides to put their foot down and say no more.
Okay. And having said that,
We're going to go to break and pay our bills.
there we go. We are brought to you by Paintball USA. For the best paintball experience of your life, call 661-255-5332. Ask for April and mention the Voice of Reason and get a 25% discount off all your regular price packages. If you want a fantastic outing for the family and friends, or if you're a corporation looking for that magic team building exercise, check out Paintball USA. All packages include admission, air gun rental, complete safety equipment, party favors, and 500 paintballs to use accordingly. That's Paintball USA at 661-255-5332. Don't forget to mention the Voice of Reason to get your 25% discount. The Voice of Reason is also brought to you by churchandlaw.com at 818-230-3110. If you have any questions or need legal advice about workers' compensation, employment, and labor law, call churchandlaw.com at 818-230-3110. The Voice of Reason is also brought to you by Honda. Additionally, The Voice of Reason is brought to you by Levin and Nalbandian Trial Lawyers at 213-232-4848. If you have any workers' compensation, employment, and labor law or personal injury legal needs, call Levin and Albandia at 213-232-4848.
Hi, I want to welcome Rusty Levin and Harry Nabanian, both trial lawyers for workman comp cases. If you're injured on the job, don't hesitate. Contact an attorney. I did when I was wounded or injured on my job, and I thought I would trust my employer, and it didn't work out quite well. So I found Rusty Levin, handled my case like a professional, worked out way better than any other lawyer that I talked to would have worked out. So Rusty, tell us a little bit about your company of Levin and Nabanian Trial Lawyers.
So at our firm at Levin Albania Trial Lawyers, we handle all matters of workers' compensation, personal injury, and employment disputes, wrongful termination matters, and things like that. We were able to help Mr. Reed out with his workers' compensation case. Unfortunately, workers' compensation injury can be very stressful, intense situation. And at Levin Albanian, we try to get you the most benefit we can of the law, while also easing the stress and anxiety that comes along with that situation, and getting you back on your feet. My partner, Mr. Albanian, he handles the personal injury sides, and I'll let him take it from there.
And just like all injured employees out there, anybody else who gets injured as a result of somebody else's negligence has rights, and the rights that they need to protect immediately. And they should do that by calling Levin and Albanian Trial Lawyers and letting us help ease that tension off of you and get you the result you deserve, while also making sure that you get better in the progress. So we're here for you, folks.
Levin and Nabanian Trial Lawyers is the best company for you to get a hold of when you're injured or have a personal injury. So give them a call at
213-232-4848, 213-232-4848. Thank you.
and let them handle the stress for you while you recover at home. Thank you again. Bye-bye. Welcome back to the Voice of Reason. I landed the bomb question of an abusive relationship. And finally, the person being abused says no more and stands up to the abuser. I honestly do believe that, yes, as a NATO, you listen to everybody talk about the UN and talk about NATO, and they say, why are we in the UN? Why don't we, stop funding it? Why are we in NATO when we're the ones funding all of it?
Yeah, we carry the burden.
And we carry the majority of the burden. And so the only one that's military ready when something happens, like when Crimea was taken over by the Russians.
By the Russians, right.
Okay, Ukraine was in a major mess over it because they were left defenseless.
Right.
Okay, the rest of Europe didn't, step in.
No.
If anybody's going to be troop ready, military ready, it's the U.S. So why is it wrong for the U.S. when they recognize, finally, and they've recognized it all along. George Bush asked for more money to be given to the UN. Obama did.
He did, yeah.
To NATO, all of them. But they couldn't get him to do it.
No.
So finally, this president is playing some serious hardball and saying, pay up. And who knows what's going on behind the scenes. Pay up, or, hey, if somebody invades you, we're not showing up. We don't know these things. And when McAfee, or whatever his name was, from the State Department came out and said, look, it's not quid pro quo. We have a right to attach strings to aid, especially military aid, going to a country. Are you going to do this for the $400 million? Are you going to do this for the $1 billion? Are you going to straighten your act up? The Ukraine issue is Ukraine is the #1 corrupt country, recognized by the world as the #1 corrupt country. Why would we want to send 400 million, 500 million, 100 million to a country that is used to corruption. Now, that's like saying, Ted, you got a neighbor who's corrupt as all hell. He's a drug addict even, on top of it all. He lies through his teeth. He comes and says, hey, Ted, I got this great business I want to start. Give me $5,000.
Right.
Are you just going to hand it to him?
No, but see, here's the thing. And like I said, it just has to pass a smell test.
Right.
And it's like, I think you're right. If we're giving this kind of money, there's nothing wrong with asking for something in return.
Right.
There isn't. My only concern is the way it's being represented, because they're still doing whatever they're doing, is if you don't, I'm going to hold the money. If you don't do it, I'm going to withhold the money.
That.
But see, that's just it. Everything, even the testimony that is given so far has, and this is the only word that I can use, has alluded to that. Now, if that is what happened, then that was wrong. Okay, because
on top of that, you've heard the legal scholars, inclusive of in Congress.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have the authority to hold that money back. It was appropriated by Congress.
Well,
he could not legally hold it back.
Well,
he would be in trouble for doing that.
But see, that's just it. Look, when you get to talking about that, I look at the fact that Congress didn't do what they needed to do when he pulled money from military projects in order to fund the wall. He did an emergency order because he felt there was a risk or danger at the border. Congress is supposed to control the purse strings. They didn't do anything to stop him. Now, and like I said, if this is what he did, we still don't know, quote unquote, no pun intended. The jury
open up all kinds of can of worms.
No. All I'm saying is the jury is still out, and I'm still going to go back to what I said when this whole thing first started. I don't believe he's going to be impeached. I really don't.
No,
I don't think, and I don't care what the polls say that it's creeping up, that more Americans think that he should be. I'm sorry. I don't think the American people want to see the president that was properly elected thrown out of office. I mean, Nixon was different because they had the taste. I don't believe, I don't care what the polls say, I don't believe that is what the American people don't want. I just don't believe that.
I don't either.
And I think it's a dog and pony show.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
about power. They want to win 2020, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's
I
all
mean,
it boils down
it's
to.
just I mean, we're spending too much time. We're spending too many resources. The business of this country isn't being done. This is too much has been focused on this whole inquiry, and I
got to ask you this question: As a devout Democrat,
mm-hmm.
do you think any of the candidates that are on stage now, that are in the debates, do you think any of those are going to be the nominee of the DNC? Honestly,
yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Now, do I think
which
okay.
one?
All right, look.
You're shocking me now.
I'm going to give you two scenarios. Okay. I'm going to two scenarios. Okay. The one scenario is this. In my opinion, it's just my opinion. The only Democrat that's on that stage that has any chance of beating Donald Trump would be Joe Biden. But Joe Biden comes with a lot of baggage. He comes with a lot of problems. But I believe he is the only one that has a potential chance.
Have you watched his?
Look. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. I don't care about the optics. I don't care about the bad memory and all of this. I don't care how much Botox he's got in his forehead because it don't barely move anymore. My point is, look.
Do you think he's a little senile, like a little dementia going on? He can't even hold a conversation.
And again, I'm just telling you that he's the only one that has a chance of beating Donald Trump. Now, I will say this.
Right.
If Elizabeth Warren gets it, Donald Trump's walking his ass right back into that White House. He just is, because and it's the same thing. Shoot me, kill me, I don't care. It's like this. America is not ready to make a woman president of this country. She just isn't. And I'll go wait.
I'll disagree on that. This country is ready for the right woman.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
The right woman.
No, we're not.
The right one?
No. You
don't think so?
No.
You think this country is misogynist?
Look, it's not about. It's not. No. Look, the fact that
I disagree.
Look, Mark, the fact that no.
Are you trying to tell me, if the DNC and their infinite wisdom of saying, you know what, We don't think Elizabeth Warren's going to win. We don't think Joe Biden's going to win. They got so much baggage. They screwed things up so bad that if Michelle Obama stepped in, you don't think she would have a shot?
Look,
Be serious.
no, I'm going to be very serious.
Dead serious.
And I said this. I already answered that question.
Okay.
Michelle Obama might have a shot, but she still ain't going to win. She still's not going to win.
Well, I don't think any of them are going to win.
Okay, my whole point is this, and again, I mean this in all seriousness. Okay, and it doesn't have anything to do with misogyny. It really and truly doesn't. Look, there's a certain image that the leader of the United States has. Okay, I think the shortest president
There's great leaders
no,
out there.
No. But wait a minute. No, because look, and again, I know who you're talking about. Okay, the Iron Lady from England. I know, I get all that, but that's England. That's England. That's not the United States. Okay, I think Calvin Coolidge was the shortest president.
How about Merkel of Germany?
Yeah, and that's fine. That's another country.
Right.
Okay, but
what I'm bringing up, and it's funny, I'm defending the fact that a woman could be president, where the Democrat Party says that a woman should be a president, and they say that Republicans don't think a woman should be president. I think the right woman, right woman, can be the president of the United States without a problem.
No, she'd have
the right one.
I'm going. Hey, again, shoot me, kill me. The only way a woman would be president of this country is she was the vice president and the president died. That's it. Because I'm telling you right now, and look, and it was proven. It was proven when Hillary ran for office. It was proven.
Hillary was a horrible.
No.
candidate.
That's irrelevant. Don Lemon went to Michigan.
He went.
Yeah,
You're talking about the CNN.
Yeah, no, because he wanted to find out.
Clown of a talk show.
First of all, he's not a clown. I like the man, but I'm gonna finish my point.
Like
I do,
okay.
because
I won't insult him anymore.
No, thank you very much. Okay,
I don't like the guy.
You can insult Cory Booker. I don't care if I am, but anyway, I like Don Lemon. But he went to the heavily black populated areas in the cities of Michigan, and every African American man that he talked to that did not vote, they said they would not vote for a woman. They said that just flat out. And even if Michelle Obama ran, she's not going to get all black men to vote for her. She won't. And as qualified as I think that she may be, look, and again, it doesn't have anything to do with misogyny. The United States has an image of their leader. He has always been a man. Now, I'm not saying that there are not women out there that are qualified. I'm not saying that.
I understand what you're saying.
All I'm saying is, in the psyche, they're not ready for it. I'm gonna say something that's gonna piss people off, and that's okay. All right. You look at. I ain't gonna say what his nickname is that I gave him, but you look at Buttigieg. If I say his name right. Buttigieg. There we go.
Buttigieg.
Okay. As qualified as he may be. I'm just gonna say it. He got two things against him. He's short, and he's gay. Okay, and even if he was a taller man, the fact that he is gay, the United States, the people of this country, will not be ready to see a gay man in the White House. There are just certain things that this country just isn't ready for. And I'm not saying that, maybe a few more years down the road that we won't be ready to have a woman sit in the seat of power. But I'm telling you, the first thing that has to happen, a woman, I think, would need to be on the under ticket. I think she would have to be in the role of the vice president of the United States, where the people of this country could see her in that role and become accustomed to the idea of her assuming the mantle of presidency. I'm just saying.
I look at qualifications of a candidate, and the fact that he's a short dude doesn't matter. I think George Bush was pretty short too.
No, he wasn't that short.
Yeah, Junior was a short dude. He was short. And whether you're gay or not gay, that isn't a qualification for a job. Doesn't make any difference. Whether this country's ready for it or not, that is your opinion. I could care less. I look at the qualifications of an individual. Now, if an individual makes it, I'm qualified for this position because I am gay, and I'm going to say, I'm sorry, you're not. No different than when I've looked at individuals and said, when a woman is running for it, I'm a woman, I'm qualified. Being a woman doesn't qualify you for the job.
And again,
Okay?
right,
Your qualifications, what you have done, what you have accomplished is your qualifications. If you're a male or a female, if you're gay or straight, whatever it is, if your qualifications are there and they are intact, that's what qualifies you for the job.
And I'm going to tell you the flaw in that logic.
Go ahead.
It's straightforward and it's real simple. Qualifications in a lot of situations ain't got a damn thing to do with you getting that job. It doesn't.
Sometimes.
I'm going to say this because there are just built-in prejudices. As a black man, I know that. I can tell you a real quick story. When I first moved out here to California, I was looking for a job. I called a company in Orange County. Me and that gentleman talked on the phone, who's responsible for hiring, for almost 2 hours. He told me, you have the job. Now, you would think anybody that heard me on the phone would know that I'm black. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's because of my command of the English language. I'm not exactly sure. But that's what he told me. Now, when I went down to Orange County and that secretary got a look at me, she said, just 1 second, sir. Because when I told her who I was there and why I was there, the next thing I know, she talked to the gentleman who was supposed to hire me. 5 minutes later, she came back out and said, Mr. Durden, I'm sorry. Someone's been hired. That position has been filled. Now, this gentleman told me for over 2 hours I was the most qualified candidate. But because of prejudices, and that's what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about the qualification of Elizabeth Warren. There's a lot of things about her that I don't agree with, a lot of her policies. But all I'm saying is there are just prejudices that I don't think that she's going to be able to overcome. And I'm talking gender prejudice. That's what I'm talking about.
I got what you're saying.
So that's all I'm saying. Okay.
Our guest was stuck on the freeway, the 405 freeway, coming here from LAX. She picked up her mom. It's Karen Gonzalez. And we're going to pay our bills right now. When we come back, we're going to have a short, very meaningful conversation with her in regards to domestic violence, the traumas that are created by domestic violence, the traumas that are passed down to the children of families of domestic violence, and how we can address and get over it. She has a very important event coming up on Saturday, at which I'll be there as well. And so when we come back, we're going to bring Karen right off the bat. Okay? Let's pay our bills.
The Voice of Reason is brought to you by churchandlaw.com, 818-230-3110. If you have any questions or need legal advice about workers' compensation, employment, and labor law, call churchandlaw.com at 818-230-3110. The Voice of Reason is also brought to you by Honda. Additionally, The Voice of Reason is brought to you by Levin and Nalbandian trial lawyers at 213-232-4848. If you have any workers' compensation, employment, and labor law or personal injury legal needs, call Levin and Nalbandian trial lawyers at 213-232-4848. And now back to The Voice of Reason.
Welcome back to The Voice of Reason. We were having so much fun in that conversation. I can hardly wait for Halloween night where we have one guest and we're going to talk about a multitude of subjects, and it's going to get real scary.
Say it's all good.
Welcome, Karen, to our show, The Voice of Reason.
Thank you.
I'm going to mention it really fast. You have the Purple event that is coming up it's hosted by the Helping Hands Resource Center. Please tell us real quick. It's going to be held at the Hope Chapel of the Valley at 7930 Mason Avenue in Winnetka. It's this Saturday from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and they can purchase tickets at Information HHR Center.
They can purchase tickets on our website or at the door.
Or at the door. So that you can just show up
Yes.
at 7930 Mason Avenue in Winnetka. Tell us a little bit about your organization, because this is something that is Ted and I have spoken about domestic violence, and rape and the incest issues and so forth. And you've been involved in this organization. You're the founder of the organization.
Yes, I'm the founder.
Yes. And it is something that people don't understand, that it's both sides, male and female.
Yes, it is.
And there's a multitude of reasons. Please give us your pitch right now. I want to hear, because we're short on time.
Yes. So, hello everyone. My name is Karen Gonzalez. I am the founder of Helping Hands Resource Center, and I'm also a survivor of domestic violence. 8 years ago, this organization began as an innovative way to serve survivors of domestic violence and trauma. The Purple event is an event that we have every year. So this is our 7th one,
All right.
where we shine the light on domestic violence, but we also bring our survivors to speak. We have a lot of survivors that have never spoken, and this is the first time. And then it's also a fundraiser. So we're raising funds to go forward with our mission for 2020. And at the same time, my heart is to continue talking about domestic violence, not just in October, because October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but also to bring awareness that trauma, which is toxic stress, exists, and that domestic violence takes people's lives every day.
Coming out and speaking to the survivors of and I bought that beautiful picture from your artist there. It's the heart, it said survivor.
Yes.
And I gave it to my kids because, not my grandkids, 2 of them, where their father is a drug addict and hasn't been able to be a proper father. And so my wife and I take care of them. And that is toxic stress all in itself.
Oh, yes.
And they are a survivor, and when they talk about it, it's all part of the healing process,
Yes,
isn't
it is. Oh, yes, it is. Talking is not just necessarily in therapy, right? When you get to finally share your story, healing is, and just through that experience of talking, right? You're breaking the silence, not just for you, but for the 7 generations before you that carried the same violence to the next generation. So we're not even understanding that it's intergenerational. The trauma is too.
It's the chains that bind us and hold us into that cycle. And a lot of people don't understand that, how common it really is. I mean, it's actually extremely common for a multitude of causations, from drug addiction to alcoholism to mental diseases, even mild mental diseases. I know that the psychiatric community has come out and said 1 out of every 5 people in America has a psychiatric problem. It's to the degree or debilitation that's the only measurement right there. Yeah. And so a lot of the domestic violence comes from that. And I've always said, looking at my son's ex, that she is described to us, she was given a bag of tools, a toolbox to deal with life with. Because of her parents and the parents back, going that 7 generations, she was handed a toolbox full of broken tools.
Wow. So she never had a chance.
She never had a chance. She never could get her feet up off the ground. And your organization is helping because you're dealing with the children even too.
Yes. So
tell us a little bit about what you do with the
when
children.
I went through this experience, I just saw that organizations were either helping the kids or the adults, but not the whole family.
Right.
And I'm a trauma educator. So what I do in the community, I teach nonviolent trauma-informed care. So my heart is for the heart of the family to heal. In order for the children to heal from domestic violence, we have to get to the parent first. And it starts from the top, right? Healing the parent, then we get to heal the child. So we have support groups where we have 2 hours where we just come and we talk about domestic violence, we talk about trauma, but we do it with art. We do it in a very creative way, right? Because artistically, we all have gifts that we don't even know we have, because sometimes this trauma blinds us from that. Right. So the organization is in the heart for kids first, right?
How do you work with LAPD or any of the different police departments when they get a domestic violence call? They can identify it, but their protocol usually is just to arrest the offender, drag him in. It is based on what's being said by the 2 individuals there, the husband and wife or boyfriend or girlfriend, based on evidence at the scene of scratches or bruises and so forth. What happens in those arrests? You tell us right now. What happens? What's the limits the county has? What's the limits the police department has? And how can we make it better and interject in finding these root causes and helping them out rather than criminalizing them?
Yes. So unfortunately, right now, the only program that trains LAPD is the DART program, which is a domestic violence response team. And that's all by volunteers only. So there is no funding for it. And what it is, it's an advocate that goes with the police officers on the call. And the job of the advocate is just to speak to the victim, because a lot of the times the victim is not understanding that they're a victim.
So they're
Right.
really there to de-escalate the situation,
Yes.
not really follow through and help.
No. And all it is here's a phone number, here's a resource, now go figure it out. So now there's this survivor, right, that is
Right.
in the lower part of the brain where you either fight, freeze, or you run away. You can't learn there. You
Right.
can't have hope, love, or anything there. And yet we're saying, call this phone number and then figure it out. So it literally feels
They're
like I'm
left alone
being,
again.
yeah, and I'm being thrown like in the deep end of an ocean all by myself.
Well, let me ask you a
Do
question.
you think everybody should be calling Eric Garcetti and say, fund this program?
Yes.
Because if we're able to help these individuals before it gets out of hand,
Yes.
before they're sent to prison, before a kid gets killed, before it destroys an entire family unit, don't you think those dollars of investment would go a lot further in saving money down the line?
Yes, of course. If we, so we're all about prevention, right? So yes, it's nice to talk about it, but what are we doing about it? Preventative work is done before the action actually happens.
Right.
So that's why we put this domestic violence purple event, so that we can talk about these things that normally we don't talk about, right? It's all shoved behind closed doors. No one knows the children next door that are living in these broken homes, and then
Right.
we, as they grow up, become perpetrators or victims. And that's the next generation that's coming to us.
Right.
You know?
So the question I have for you is, if you have somebody who, a woman who is being abused, what resources do you have available to her if she wanted to avail them?
So through Helping Hands Resource Center, I'm also a domestic violence advocate.
Okay.
So I'm able to walk them through the process of safety planning, what they actually need, connect them to domestic violence organizations, meaning shelters, because we're not a shelter.
Well,
We're
okay.
just an organization that helps them with like basic needs, toiletries, things that we don't think about, right? Like toilet paper, deodorant, things that you think you're always going to have.
Right.
But when those emergencies happen, right? Like when it's like right now or my life is going to end, you lose everything. I lost everything in the matter of seconds. So when we walk them through that is first step one, what do you need? What have you lost?
Okay.
Right? Meaning clothes, food, feminine hygiene, all that
Right.
stuff that we don't think about. Then second step, advocacy. Now understanding that domestic violence is a crime, that domestic violence does take lives. Every 9 seconds, there is someone that is being abused in the United States. 1 out of 4 women have been victims of domestic violence, and 1 out of 7 men have been domestic violence victims.
Right.
That means that 10 million children around the United States are witnessing domestic violence every year. And those are actual statistics from the CDC.
One of the how would you say, productions that you have was a child who called 911.
Yes. That phone call is an actual legit phone call. It's
Yeah.
called The Children Next Door, and it's a audio where the child is calling 911, and you can hear the mother being aggravated at the. You can't see it, obvious. You can hear him crying and saying, "This has been happening forever and ever. Call the police, bring help," and then you just hear the call end, and you don't know what happens.
Yeah.
And those are the children. Then they come to our churches, to our schools. Right? Then we have to pick up the broken pieces without understanding. We just see the bad behavior.
Right.
Or you're a bad kid.
Right.
But in reality, misbehavior is a form of communication.
Right.
And so I work for Eco Parenting and Education. I'm also a trauma-informed educator through them. So they're the ones that taught me first to break the cycle of violence and then to live a violence-free life, to parent in a non-violent way.
Right.
Because I parent the way that I was parented. So if I grew up in violence, what am I passing down?
Right.
Violence.
Exactly.
That phone call was so impactful. I didn't stop talking because I didn't have more to say. I stopped talking
Yeah.
because I was emotional.
It was very, very impactful.
I want everybody to come to this event this Saturday, October 26th, at Hope Chapel of the Valley at 7930 Mason Avenue, Winnetka, California. It starts at 5 o'clock. If you can't afford the ticket, use my name, Mark Reed, and I will pay your ticket.
Thank you. Thank you.
Phone number is 818-984-4411. Again, 818-984-4411. Again, it's the Hope Chapel of the Valley at 7930 Mason Avenue in Winnetka, California. And I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mark.
I feel for you driving the 405 freeway. That's a
Right,
whole nother
yeah.
traumatic experience in itself, isn't it?
And there's fires, I hear.
Right, yeah.
Quite a
yeah.
few of them.
See, that's trauma right there. We don't even realize we go through traumatic things every day.
Every day.
Every day.
And they trigger other traumatic
Yes, they do.
experiences. Ted and I will have you back because
Thank
there's
you,
more
thank
that
you.
I know
Yes.
you need to want to talk about.
Of course.
And I've seen it. I've been there, and I'm going to see you this Saturday
Yes,
as
you
well.
are. Thank you.
And thank you again for allowing us into your homes and your computers and your cell phones and your cars.
Thank you.
You guys have a wonderful evening. Ted, take it home, please.
All right. And I'm going to just parrot Mark Reed. This is a very important event. Domestic abuse is a plague upon our society. And Karen is doing everything that she can to help those in need. And to close it out, remember, ignorance prevails when rational minds sit back and do nothing. Be sure to tune in next week. You have been listening to Ted Durden and Mark Reed. The Voice of Reason has been brought to you by churchandlaw.com, Honda, Levin and Nalbandian Trial Lawyers, and Paintball USA. Thank you, and be sure to tune in next Thursday at 7 p.m. for another edition of The Voice of Reason.